Yo YouTube, this is my video for Monday the 7th of April. The time is now 5 to 11 and I'm on my way to my first pickup of the day, which is still an hour and a quarter away, and I've been on the road for about 20 minutes. So going back to today, this morning, I hadn't got anything booked in from Friday or the weekend, and I was quite tired this morning, having gone to bed quite late last night, and so I wasn't really looking at jobs until about 9 o'clock. And actually there was a sprinkling of decent opportunities. A couple of examples that really caught my eye was there was a job from Alford, Lincolnshire postcode, about an hour and a half from me, going to Boston and then to Sutton Coldfield in Birmingham. That was a long wheelbase van job. There's a job going from Thetford to Kettering, a job going from Kings Lynn to Milton Keynes. There's a job going from Thetford to St Helens. There's one going from Mablethorpe to something like I can't remember, but something like let's say Runcorn. I don't know, it wasn't there. But so there's at least, I would say, 5 or 6 jobs that I was in a position to do if I got the pricing right, and there wasn't that many drivers around that would compete for those sort of jobs. But there were some drivers, and I was quite a long distance from most of those jobs. The closest of those jobs I was an hour away from, so Kings Lynn is an hour from where I was. The one that was quite tricky was the one that was from Alford to Boston to Sutton Coldfield, because that wasn't picking up until 12 o'clock. So I could easily have got there in time, and I was very tempted, if I'd been ready to go at the point I saw this job, I was really tempted just to head towards Alford, which is an hour and a half away, risking the fact that I might not get the job, but get there, get really close to it before they made a decision about it, because it's a 12 o'clock pickup. And I felt quite good about the fact that I could have perhaps done a calculated risk and gone towards that area, and if it had not worked out, I was still close to Boston. So I wasn't quite ready to move, and then it did get sold about half an hour later. I put bids on all those jobs, and then the job going from Thetford to St Helens was kind of my favourite one. That was the one I really wanted to do, and it's a small van job. The loaded miles is 215 miles, and I worked it out that based on the time for me to get from home to Thetford to St Helens and the mileage, which is about 275 miles in total from home to Thetford to St Helens, if I could make about £205, that would be exactly the amount of money that would cover what I wanted to make. So it would be my £30 hourly cost, and it would cover the mileage. So I put a bid on of £210, just less than £1 a mile. I did put on a note saying it was an hour and a half away from Thetford. I just hoped that that would be a good enough bid to get the job. And again, I was thinking, should I just head towards Kings Lynn anyway, and then I'll be close to that job? So I was tempted to do that as well. At this point I was thinking, should I go towards Kings Lynn or should I go towards Boston? But it's in opposite directions, so I couldn't do... Ideally I'd like to have both of those jobs in the same direction, in which case I would have headed towards that direction on the off chance to get one of those jobs. But all the jobs that I've been on, apart from a couple, get cancelled or sold, and a couple came back on, and one that came back on was the Thetford St Helens job. So I rechecked my calculation, and I thought there's enough in it for me to do for £200. I thought £200 is probably enough below the £1 a mile to make it worth a punt. So let's put that bit on, and about 5 minutes later I got a call and I was offered that job, and I was really pleased about that. And so I immediately got in my van and started heading towards Thetford. This would have been at 10:30, and I'm going to be picking up a small van job from Thetford and then going to St Helens. And I've worked out that the mileage is, as I said, 275. That's going to cost me about £40 in diesel, and so I'm making 160, which is for my time, which basically gives me about 5.5 hours worth of time to finish the job, and it'll still be worth a while. Just less than 5.5. Let's say 5 hours and 20 minutes. So, if I am finished by 3:30, that's definitely worth it. If I'm finished by, say, 10 to 4 o'clock, it's still been worth it. And I can definitely do this job in that time. My current ETA to get to Thetford is 12 o'clock. And it's about, I think, 4 hours. Maybe a bit less than 4 hours. To get to, let's say 4 hours. So I should easily be, I think I'll easily be finished by 4 o'clock. Which is doubly good, so it means I've not underpriced the job I'm doing now, which is good. But secondly, I'll be in a very good area for work and not a bad time. So I've got about an hour to find a job out of the northwest. I don't really need to find a big job, just a £60 job to pay for my fuel to get home. That's the full for the day. Pay for fuel for the day and the fuel to get home. So that will be enough for me to earn about £200, or just less than £200 net of fuel. So right at this moment in time, it's lovely weather. I feel optimistic about today, and I know for a fact the load from Thetford is going to fit my van because it's a small van job. So far, I can't see anything going wrong with today. So I'll let you know how it goes. Cheers! Hi there YouTube, it is now 12:15. I have picked up my load from Thetford. I arrived about 10 past, and I've collected the items, 2 items, and I'm on my way now to St Helens. The only issue I have at this moment in time is I do need some fuel within the next 150 miles, and that's going to probably delay me by 10-15 minutes. But other than that, it's plain sailing for this job. So my ETA is about 4:15 without the stop, so it's going to take me roughly about 4 hours to get across. And if I do, well, I wanted to stop for fuel, so let's say 4:30, but I'll be offloaded in St Helens. And the only other thing to say about this job is it is such an easy job. I'm just taking 2 metal bars that are just about 1.6 meters long, so they would fit into a car, and I basically feel like I'm being paid to drive across the country on a nice day by myself listening to music, because my van is pretty much empty. And it just feels like a really nice, easy job. There's no handballing as such. I can lift these items with 2 fingers probably, if I can balance them. So it's really easy. So I'm just going to drive, just a question of driving and having some time to myself, which is always very nice. So yeah, so I'll let you know when it's Warrington. Hopefully after this video, after this serene, lovely, sort of calm end to this bit of the clip, hopefully the next one will be a similar start, and I'll have a job coming back home, hopefully. So let's try and predict. I think I will get a job out of St Helens or around that area. It is tight. It is going to be only about 45 minutes or even half an hour of time to find something. Even if I go beyond 5 o'clock, I think I'll still have a chance to get a job. So I think I will get something, and as long as it's not heading further south than Birmingham or further north than St Helens, any job will be closer to home really from there. So any job will be fine, and obviously my record to beat is half an hour from home. If I can beat that record, that'd be amazing. An amazing start to the week as well. But I think that is quite unlikely. Hello YouTube, just a quick update on my current, what's in my head at the moment. I'm currently on the M6 north of Birmingham, heading northwards. I've just passed junction 14, and I've just noticed something about this road, which, have you noticed it at the moment? There is no hard shoulder, and just before junction 14, about a mile before junction 14, there was a Luton van with its hazards on, stopped in the driving lane, in this lane I'm in now, and it looked to me really dangerous. There was no warning on Google Maps, it must be just happened. There's no warning with the overhead gantries. There's like one here, so they do exist on this road. And the traffic that I was in the middle of, I was in the lane, I think 2 or 3 at that moment. We'd just come out of quite a lot of congestion. We were all in our own lanes for a bit, and everyone in front of me put like 20 cars in front of me in all the lanes, all at once, had their brake lights on. So I put my brake lights on and looked behind me, put my brake lights on. There was nothing behind me that was too close. I had plenty of space in front of me. We didn't come to a stop, we came to a slowdown. And then I realised, right at that moment, in this lane, there was a Luton van broken down with its headers on. And it had its the bonnet at the front up. I didn't have time to see if there's any driver in the vehicle or around the vehicle. But what really shocked me about that was how dangerous a situation that is. It only takes one driver in the driving lane to not be concentrating at that particular moment, and they're going to plough into the back of that Luton and cause massive disruption. There are, I think, every mile these SOS areas where you can pull over off the main carriageway. So I don't know why the Luton didn't carry on to the next SOS. It wasn't that far down the road, but I don't know whether it was obvious to them whether they existed. So if I was in a situation in my van and I was broken down, I would do everything I could, whether it involved me braking my van further or not, to get it into one of these refuge areas. I would not want to be stuck on driving lane. That would be so anxiety inducing. If I wasn't in the car, in the van, just have my van there would be just enough anxiety that's going to get destroyed by a lorry that comes in the back of it. And then my last point is, on an A road, it was a 2-lane A road, earlier on in my journey, the same thing had happened, but it was a lorry that was actually stuck in the driving lane. But what happened there was the driver had walked about 100 metres down the road with his high vis on, and he was pointing all the traffic to go across to the next lane, and he did that, I think, in such a way in which he was safe, and also it reduced, I think, immensely the chance that anything was going to go in the back of his lorry. So there is something a driver can do, but that was an A road. This is a motorway. I'm not sure you're really meant to do that. But I can't, goodness no. That I'm scared for that driver, and I'm just driven past it. That Luton. For all I know, behind me now there's a massive pile-up happening. So what's I don't know. I saw it about 3:30 on the M6, just before junction 14, northbound. So if there is going to be an accident happening today on this carriageway, then I'm not going to be surprised. Anyway, that was the end of my. I've got that out of my head now because that was really worrying me, thinking about that. I was mulling that over in my head, thinking that seemed dangerous. That's bad, and I thought I need to get this out of my head. So I've got my avenue to do that, which is my YouTube channel, and I think I won't really worry about it now because I've expressed it. But yeah, that was quite a shocking. Nothing had actually happened at that point, but it's what might happen is a shocking thing. Right, I'll see you later. Cheers. Okie dokie, so my ETA to get to St Helens at the moment is 4:40. Now that's because I stopped to get some fuel around Coventry, which probably added about 10-15 minutes onto my total journey. I was going to be arriving about past. When I put it with fuel, it became about 30:30. And then I got stuck in very slow moving traffic on the M6 north of Birmingham as usual. I was sort of crossing the north of Birmingham, and that added another 10 minutes. And then I got out of that, and now the traffic's flowing really freely. But I've looked ahead, and there's just before the junction that I come off the M6, there's some more slow moving traffic, about half a mile or so. And so my Google Maps has gone orange in terms of the time that's left. It's saying 31 minutes, and my ETA is going to be 4:40, but that could go up quite easily. So I have rung the shipper to update them on where I am and what my ETA is. I've said that my ETA is going to be 4:45 at the moment, but it might change because of this congestion. And they asked me to ring the customer and update them, which I did do. I spoke to them, and they said they closed at 5. And so I said I should be there by 5. That should be no problem. But if I am going to be late on that, I will ring them directly. Now I'm just coming up on Google Maps to a red area on my route, and so this may get slow in a moment. So I'm going to concentrate on this, and then I'm going to assume that I will get to my drop-off location before 5. The only issue I now have is there's not really any jobs heading back towards where I live, or anywhere near where I live. I have been looking for the last hour or an hour and a half. There's not been anything. Any jobs that do come up from the west, northwest, are kind of for delivery in the morning, and they're going not that close to where I live. So I'm going to keep looking for jobs as I'm driving to my drop-off, and I'll put a bid on it at some cheap money to get myself home if I need to. But it's not looking very likely. Alright, I'll speak to you later. It's now quarter to 6 now, and I arrived at my drop-off point in St Helens at 4:45, and there was no further delays at the end of my last bit of journey. And so I got off really quickly, and then parked up outside the building, and then waited. There was not really anything that was delivering anywhere near where I want to go. If it was anywhere near it, which there wasn't many, it would have been for delivery in the morning. The best one I had was going from Warrington to York, but for delivery at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I just can't do that. It's 2 hours from York to my house, and then I also can't do it because, well, I could do it usually, but I can't do it because I've got an appointment tomorrow morning at Leicester Hospital quite early, so I can't be doing any travelling out tonight. So I've just realised, Well, I just realised my partner's reminded me I had completely forgotten. So I was waiting there. I was thinking I could start going home, but I thought I'll give it to 6, give it a decent chance, because I am in a good area. And a couple of jobs came up. One was from Liverpool to Runcorn, which wasn't getting me very far, but if I'd got the job it would have given me my petrol money to go home empty. And then soon after that a job came up from Warrington going to Nottingham, and that's perfect for me. Well, not quite perfect, because Nottingham's still about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half from my home, but compared to where I am right now, which is 3 hours away, it's much better. And I went cheap on this one. I went backload rate. I did double check before I put the bid on. I was thinking in my head £60 would be what I'd do the job for. I double checked what would be the per mile rate, and because it's 90 loaded miles, it would come out as 67 pence per mile. So I thought that was okay as a backload rate to get me home. It's not great, but it's not disaster. And I got the call reasonably quickly, and I'm I'm 23 minutes away, 15 miles away from Warrington. So I'm on my way there now to pick up, and the only thing I need to be aware of here, which the shipper's told me, is that they are closed, the people I'm picking up from, but they are leaving the items somewhere obvious for me to pick up by myself, and obviously I'm happy with that. I'm going to be there pretty soon, so it works for everybody. And this is delivering ASAP, so tonight, so I can't definitely tomorrow morning. So it's pretty much almost perfect job. If it was closer to home, it would be perfect. That's the only reason it's not perfect. But it gets me paid to get home. I reckon I'm going to guesstimate that my fuel for today will be about £62 roughly. That is a guess, to be honest, but I can't be a million miles away. And so this job basically pays for my fuel for the day, and that means the £200 job I did this morning is what I'm earning net of fuel, if I'm correct in my assumption. I'll work it out when I get somewhere close to the end of my day. But yeah, so I'm a bit tired, but I'm pleased. I am pleased to have this job. Right, okay, I will let you know with a few stats probably in about... Right, hello there YouTube. It's now 8:30. I've offloaded my job at Nottingham, and I've got about an hour left to get home. When I looked at the map when I was going from St Helens to Warrington, to Nottingham to home, it's basically a straight line west to east, so I haven't really wasted any time or distance getting home, which is nice. So I'll give you my stats for today and then bring us to a close. The average fuel price for this week is currently 14.12 pence per mile. I've filled up today on the way up to St Helens, so that's why that's an updated price. When I get home, I will have driven a total of 432 miles, 432, and I have worked for exactly 11 hours today. I left the house at 10:30 and I'll arrive back at 9:30. I've earned £260, 260 gross, from 2 CX jobs, and I've actually spent exactly to the penny £61 on fuel, which means that my net earnings today after fuel comes to £199, 199. So I'm really pleased with that. Bearing in mind I had a very late start, nothing was booked in. It ended up being a pretty good day, with not too much stress, and it was lovely weather as well. So that brings this to a close. Thank you very much for listening to my video. I hope that you are all being successful, however you choose to find that word for yourselves. And I'll be back on Wednesday. Farewell, friends.